Joining me now is Israel's former Prime Minister Naftali Benett. He enlisted in the IDF reserves yesterday after the attacks. Prime Minister, tell us what all this looks like to you on the ground. You must have I know you've been traveling around the country.
This is very hard to contain, very hard to absorb, such scale and such cruelty. What's been going on is for about 30 hours until just a few hours ago, there was a massacre in slow motion going on in dozens of communities in southern Israel where Hamas terrorists went from one home to another, entered the home with their rifles, killed babies point blank, held their rifles, killed the baby, killed the mother, killed the father. In many cases, the family closed the shelter door, which is a very thick steel door, so the terrorists could not enter. The terrorists were walking just right outside of the door, telling them it's IDF soldiers, open up. And on the other side of the door, the family is just praying that they go away. When the family doesn't open the door to be murdered, then the Hamas terrorist burns the house, and then smoke enters the room, and then the families have to open the door, and then they're slaughtered, point blank. Imagine that. Imagine we've had situations where a 9-year-old girl is pulled by her hair by the terrorists and kidnapped into Hamastan, the Hamas state that's just a few kilometers from here, from where I'm standing. Imagine mothers trying to defend their children while the dad is out there. Ophir Lipstein, the mayor of this area, a good friend of mine, he put his family in the shelter and he went out with his pistol to fight the terrorist. He was killed, but his family is saved. We're still waiting to hear what's going on with his son, Nitzan. So many personal stories and friends that have been murdered. This is very personal, and this is not how human beings act. This is an act of monsters.
Let me ask you about the intelligence and security failure, because you're a former prime minister. You have had security briefings. What is your sense of how this happened? Because this is, to my mind, as I've said, this seems more dramatic than 73, because this is Gaza. This is not trying to figure out what's happening in foreign capitals. And secondly, how did the Iron Dome not work as well as it was expected to against these thousands of missiles?
Well, I have to admit that we were surprised, and we're going to have to learn how that happens. But generally in military history, there are always big surprises. Pearl Harbor, Barbarossa, Yom Kippur War. At the end of the day, intelligence can go only so far. What I'm very proud to say is, and see, I've meeting just amazing heroes, Israeli heroes, that are not in the army. They 40-year-old men that get on uniform, enlist to the reserves, and go out and defend other families across Israel. We have 150% enlisting rate. I'm getting so many calls from people who say, I want to go defend other Israelis. This is a beautiful nation that we have, a courageous nation that's out fighting, and unfortunately, people are dying while defending other people. Just tremendous amount of acts of heroism. And I just met a guy called Ayal. He took 2 bullets into his body, but he saved his family in a kibbutz not far from here. He saved his family from terrorists who were about 15 terrorists, and there were just 4 Israeli civilians, but they had their guns, and they fended off the terrorists until about 5 or 6 hours later, the army finally came.
President Netanyahu says this is going to be a long and difficult war. Do you agree? I mean, again, from the outside, we think the Israeli Defense Forces are so strong that you will be able to do a kind of massive retaliation. Do you think this is going to be long and difficult?
I think it will be long and difficult. I think, not unlike Pearl Harbor, it did not take 2 days for America to get organized because this war is not against Hamas only. The way I view it is Hamas, Iran, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, our enemies are one front. They even say that. And the way that we need to operate is by surprise. We don't have to play by their rule book. The fact that Hamas attacked us here doesn't mean we have to go straight into there. It means that we can act however we find right. And I will say that our enemies, from Tehran to Gaza to anywhere that they're trying to hurt us, we're going to get them. It's going to hurt. And we're going to hit them back because we have a strong nation. And yeah, we took a huge blow, unimaginable. But we're strong and we will prevail.
Naftali Benett, thank you very much. My apologies for calling Prime Minister Netanyahu President Netanyahu.